Hi everyone, this is Jewish Talk. Yes, coming to you from Nassau Community College on 90.3 WHPC. I'm so excited. You can't imagine. I'm just so pumped up here this morning because we're streaming on nccradio.org. This program is later archived on Spreaker.com. This program is repeated on Sunday evenings at 11 p.m. So tell all your friends who are sleeping right now. They have another chance to listen. So hi there. My name is Rabbi Perl. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. This all depends on when you are listening or watching. And I gewalt, I nearly forgot. How could I forget? We can be seen on Facebook as Jeffrey Hirsch joins us this morning. Facebook Live at facebook.com at HPC or facebook.com at Antrel Pearl. Welcome to Dr. Kolshevsky with best wishes to Dorothy. So hello on radio, hello online, and hello to the world. Dear friends, I will have to share this with you. I said to Kim this morning, my engineer, great engineer, I gotta start off on a little bit on a lighter note today. Things are so serious around there. So my wife sat down on the couch next to me and I was flipping channels. She asked me, what's on TV? I said, dust. And then the fight started. When I got home last night, my wife demanded that I take her someplace expensive. So I took her to the gas station. And then the fight started. My wife and I were sitting at a table at my high school reunion, and I kept staring at a drunken lady swigging her drink as she sat alone at the nearby table. My wife asked, do you know her? Yes, I sighed. She's an old friend. I understand she took to drinking right after we split up many years ago, and I hear she hasn't been sober since. My God, says my wife, who would think a person could go on celebrating that long? And then the fight began. Okay, everybody. Okay, listen, Doctor, please, I know you're very, very taken aback, but that's the truth. The truth is you got to start off on a lighter note. You can't take life so seriously. As I say hello to Mark Pintel, all the way from Paradise, Jupiter, Florida. Mike, I never realized that Gan Eden is in Jupiter. But welcome, Mark. Thank you so much. Let's begin, my friends. We read this week of what happened in biblical times in the temple. And there we shared, the Torah tells us that fire was on the altar and it had to be on, the flame had to remain all the time. It should not be extinguished. And the priest should kindle wood in the morning, in the afternoon, to make sure that a constant fire would burn upon the altar. It shall never go out. Those are the words from the Torah. And with these words, the Torah is describing, this is in this week's Torah portion, the instruction to continuously maintain a flame on the altar, which stood in the tabernacle. This was the mobile sanctuary the Jewish people built in the desert to house the divine presence. And then later it continued in the Holy Temple in Jerusalem. And for this purpose, the priest was required to place new firewood on the altar each morning. Why? Simply in order to feed the flame which must never go out. As we all know, as the Torah commentators and the Jewish mystics acutely grasp, every mitzvah, every commandment in the Torah contains, in addition to its concrete and simple meaning, many symbolisms relating to the inner physic of, or psyche, you could say, of the human being. This mitzvah is no exception. And really, I want to share with you how this captures a very simple but profound truth about our daily patterns in life. You see, the words, a constant fire shall burn upon the altar, as it's written in the Jewish mysticism, this is a symbolic of the human heart, the space of each of us most capable of sacrifice. This heart, however, needs a continuous fire burning in it. For a human heart to live deeply, for it to feel empathy and experience the depth of love, we need to be on fire and passionate and aflame. But how, we can ask? There are times when our hearts and our souls are inspired and aflame, but often we feel numb and apathetic, and life goes on boring, routine. As I say good morning to a very excited, passionate individual, Richard D. Rottenberg, all the way from Hallandale, Florida. I think we have more people now listening to us around the country than on Long Island. Please let me know if you're listening here on Long Island. Give us a post. Give us a post on Facebook. Let us know. You know what? I guess what? You know, can you tell us, make a phone call. Is that okay, Kim? Yeah? At 516-572-7440. I'd like to know if there's anybody here. I can see people from Paradise, from Connecticut, from Florida. Gewalt. What's going on over here? Anybody on Long Island listening? Let me know. As we say hello to Karen Dumbeck and to Gene Brandenson. So how are we supposed to keep our heart aflame when we sometimes, we get cynical? We sometimes get detached. How do we maintain the flame and inspiration in our own inner temple? Wow, I feel vindicated. We have someone listening from Westbury. Unbelievable. That's a good beginning. Westbury. What happened anywhere? Is there anything else besides Westbury? Maybe in Garden City listening. So how do we keep our flame going? Our inner altar flame. There's only one way. The priest would kindle the wood upon it in the morning and each morning. Each and every morning we must place wood on our altar. Thank you, Karen, all the way from Mineola. Hey, let's hear it from Mineola. Unbelievable. Kim, wow. I'm in a good mood this morning. I want to see as many people, as many areas that are listening here today. It's just for fun. We don't need your address. We don't need your password on your computer, or make a phone call. Say I'm listening from who knows where. Oh, you know what? Kim, I know there's always a problem. You got to talk to the boss here. 516-572-7440. Most people complain to me. They only have 14 on their telephone pad. It's 516-572-7. So let me tell you a little secret, dear friends. To get through, you press that same 4 twice. Shh, don't tell anybody. Most people aren't aware of that. They have 2 different phones. When they get to the 4, they press 4 on one phone, then they move over to the other phone and press the other phone. Hopefully they work together. Oh, my friend, I don't know. That must have been the joke, or I'm still left over from my Purim experience from last Sunday. So 516-572-7440. And let's see now. Okay, please let me know where you're listening. Unbelievable. Watching. It'll be great. So let's get back to this, though. Here we are. We're told that there has to be an altar. There had to be fire burning. In order to keep that fire burning, you got to have wood. Wood. Each and every morning, I remember being in yeshiva, and I said something at the class, and the teacher said to me, Anshul, I smell the wood burning. I smell the wood burning. So each and every morning, we must place wood on the altar in order to feed its potential flame. Fire cannot exist in a vacuum. The fire in our hearts and our soul, too, requires wood to sustain it. My goodness, we have Joseph Kavanagh all the way from New Jersey. Wow, New Jersey. Wow. Well, what's the end of the tunnel at the Hunnell Tunnel? It's New Jersey. Okay. So what is the wood? What is the wood? Again, how do we stay ourselves passionate? What is the wood that is capable of feeding our own soul's flame each morning? And here I am to share it with you. Do you know what keeps us passionate? What keeps us alive and well? It's study. It's prayer. It's charity. These are the morning encounters with the living God that allows the fire of our soul to hold on to something and to take root into the human psyche. I believe that we have someone on the phone who's going to share with us where they're listening. Hello and good morning. Welcome.
Good morning from Hicksville.
Hicksville, let's hear from Hicksville. It's unbelievable. Do you always listen to this program, or you just happen to be...
No, we listen to you faithfully, my husband Steve and myself, Michelle, every Sunday.
Steve and Michelle, thank you so much. And thank you for doing that every week. And that's Hicksville, right? Did you say Hicksville?
Yes, Hicksville, New York, Long Island.
No, Long Island. I used to have a synagogue and center on New South Road and Old Country Road. Old Country Road, New South Road. There's a synagogue there. It used to be a synagogue just before South Oyster Bay Road. Now it's changed over there. But thank you so much for listening. So let's hear it from Hicksville. Let's hear it from New Jersey.
Yay! God bless you. Thank you so much, Rabbi.
Thank you so much. Let's keep going. Okay, thank you so much. So let's be honest, dear friends. A delicious piece of cheesecake, reading and answering your emails, listening to the news. I tried it, my friends. It just doesn't do the trick of turning on my soul, my inner depth. Because all the stuff that we are surrounded with all the time, they lack the properties to bring out the flame of the soul. In the morning, before you do anything else, we need to, in a certain sense, engage in the labor, put our effort into doing something that in the morning that will keep that flame of one's soul to emerge and to be with us all day. So I'm here to share with you. Good morning, soul, must precede Good Morning in America. Then you're set for the day. You know, because as once said, a man sees in the world what he carries in his heart. If your heart is aflame, your world that day will be on fire. And guess what? You must place the wood on your altar each morning, no exceptions. Because consistency is the key to a meaningful and inspiring day. There are no shortcuts to inspiration. Everything comes with a price. The only job where you start at the top is digging a hole. But life, true life, is about climbing mountains, not digging holes. And in climbing mountains, you got to begin at the bottom. So I wish everybody today and every day to add passion, to add the wood, to bring up our personality, bring out our powers, bring out all the talents that we've been blessed with to make it a meaningful life. So, my friends, I know we have people in New Jersey, we have people in Mineola, we have people in Westbury, in Jupiter. He describes Jupiter, Florida as the paradise. Unbelievable. We even have people in Hallandale. Unbelievable. Let's hear. I want to get in a few more people. Tell me where you... I'm talking. Is there anybody... Oh, we have Lavada. She is in Belmore. Give me a B. Give me an E. Give me an L and an L and M. Oh, Belmore. Wow, that's mean. In Belmore, there's so much more enthusiasm and passion. Belmore. The bell goes on more and more all the time. Okay. I think I'm in the mood of a little Purim here today. A little serious moment right now. As you may know, I come from England many years ago, came to the United States, more than 4 decades ago. So I keep up to date with the news in London, England. And recently, I'm sure you as well know, the Princess of Wales announced that she has that illness. And in a video recorded in Windsor, the former Kate Middleton disclosed her diagnosis in order to put an end to the speculation and the gossip that began online, but was then embraced and promoted by mainstream media about the state of her health and her marriage. And one of the perpetrators responsible is a popular TV host, Stephen Colbert, who promoted really unsubstantiated rumors about the princess and her husband. When she revealed her diagnosis and the reason for her absence from public life, Colbert said on his show, for the last 6 weeks, everyone has been talking about the mystery of Kate Middleton's disappearance from public life, and 2 weeks ago, we did some jokes about that mystery and all the attendant, stuff that the media was reporting. And when I made those jokes that upset some people even before her diagnosis was revealed. And he continued, I don't know whether her prognosis is a tragic one. She's the future Queen of England, and I assume she's going to get the best possible medical care. But regardless of what it is, far too many of us know that any cancer diagnosis of any kind is harrowing for the patient and for the family. And though I'm sure they didn't need it from me, I and everyone here at The Late Show would like to extend our well wishes and heartfelt hope that her recovery is swift and thorough. Now, these are his words. First of all, my friends, besides for the fact that his monologue, being a kind of a textbook example of a lame non-apology, the damage was already done. Good morning to Steve Epstein, Ashrei. Think about this. A woman was essentially bullied into disclosing something personal and private because enduring the gossip and conspiracy theories were worse and even harder to deal with. It happened because people felt that they had the right to know something that was actually none of their business. Kolbe and the members of the media weren't the only ones who inquired where they didn't belong. 3 staff members at the prestigious private London hospital in which she had her surgery are accused of accessing her private medical records to satisfy their curiosity about what was going in her life. A chutzpah. The Torah places great value on people's right to privacy. Jewish law demands that we conduct ourselves with a presumption that all that we are told, even in pedestrian, casual conversation, is to be held in confidence unless it is explicitly articulated that we are free to repeat what we've heard. There are actually laws of what is called hezek riyah. What does hezek riyah mean? It forbids a person from looking into his or her neighbor's property in a way that violates their privacy. We are instructed not to speak lashon hara or rechilas and spread gossip and evil talk, even if the information is absolutely true and entirely accurate. The Talmud goes as far as to tell us that we are permitted to distort the truth in circumstances where someone is prying for information that is none of their business and they're not entitled to have. This phenomenon expresses itself in many scenarios. When some hear about a couple getting divorced, what's their first response? What happened? As if they are entitled to a full report about the most personal and private details of a couple and often their children going through a very difficult time. Many pay a shiva call, means to go to pay a condolence call, and feel the need to ask, how did he or she die? Hello. None of your business. Certainly the mourner is free to volunteer the cause of death if they like. But is it really our business? And do we truly need to know? When we ask, why did he lose his job? Or why did he break their engagement? Or why is she still single? Are we asking because we care about them? Or is finding out someone else is satisfying, to ourselves? For some, the need to know stems from a sense of information as a source of power. Information is social currency, and the more we know, the richer and more powerful we are. For others, the need to know stems from an inability to live with tension or mystery. And yet for others, the need to know is similar to whatever draws us to slow down and look at the accident on the highway, even though it has nothing to do with us at all. And guess what? You're creating rubbernecking and creating problems for other people. So, if we are really curious and want to inquire about something, it shouldn't be about private information that doesn't belong to you or to us. It should be about the well-being of people who are eager for us to care enough to ask about it. there are things that are none of our business. We aren't entitled to know, and we shouldn't ask, push, or bully others into disclosing or sharing with us. And then there are things we should feel are of our business, all of our responsibility, the well-being of people we love and we care about. And that's what I want to say about everybody listening over here today. Really, I care for you. I appreciate every Sunday morning joining us and sharing with us and emailing us and asking questions and all the good things. And I want to say hello to Michael Wolf, all the way from Floral Park. Let's hear it for Floral Park. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. We haven't reached our maximum yet, right? We could get some more. Oh, yeah, we have all the way till 9 o'clock. So let us hear where you're calling from or where you're listening and watching. So we're covering really, from Florida to New Jersey to Floral Park to Hicksville to Mineola. I love Mineola. Wow. So let's all remember the difference between what we're discussing and channel our curiosity into the questions that will lift people up instead of making them feel down. And that is something very, very special. In fact, this week I was learning there's an interesting teaching that if someone shares evil talk about someone to someone else, called Lashon Hara, 3 people are pained, or 3 people are now held responsible. The person saying it, the person who's saying the evil talk, he's held responsible. The person obviously listening, he's also held responsible because he should be minding his own business. But fascinating, the person they're talking about also gets, in a sense, is held responsible. Now the question is, why should this be? Doesn't make sense. If I'm saying, God forbid, someone's saying something bad about someone else, okay, I shouldn't say it. The person there shouldn't be listening. But why should someone who may be who knows where that we're talking about, why should they be upset, or why should they be held responsible? How come they're part of this whole triangle, so to speak? And I learned a very important part. The power of speech is creative. Each human being has the power to speech. We know when someone gets up and he says rotten words, how it makes you feel. We know in history, the demagogues and the dictators got up there and created all with their power of speech. Speech is so powerful. Speech reveals, just as we find, metaphorically speaking, when God created the world, he spoke it, let there be light. You see, the power of speech has the ability to reveal. So for God, it reveals the world. For us, it reveals our feelings, but it also brings to the surface. So if you're talking bad about someone else, even if they're not in the room, you're actually bringing out to the world, revealing to the world something negative. And when you bring something negative into the world, it attracts negativity, and it actually harms that person. So let us be careful of what we talk about, what we're interested in. And if you are interested in somebody else, ask them, how are you doing? How do you feel? How's your weekend? How was Shabbos? How's your family? How's everything? So Kim, everything okay? Good? Okay. So I'm happy. Kim's okay. Otherwise, I'll have no program over here today. But seriously, it's important. Please. Anybody wants to join us on the telephone, 516-572-7440. I think, people in Hicksville, they're smart. They knew how to press that double 7440. 516-572-7440. Let us know where you're joining us. As Sharon Jacobs I'm going to tell you, Sharon Jacobs is watching Boker Tov to you all the way from Wantagh. Wow, unbelievable. Let's continue. Coming up on, let's see, what is it called again? April the 8th. A big deal going to happen. And in fact, I just read that there's a state of emergency being declared in Niagara Falls. They're expecting on that date, on the 8th, over 1 million people coming to the Niagara Falls area to be able to witness the eclipse of the sun. And everyone's talking about this. We in our shul at Mineola is a gentleman who literally is retired, a doctor, a very, very venerable individual. He'll go anywhere in the United States to see an eclipse. That's just of a moon, of a sun. He goes anywhere. He even goes out of the country, and he has a whole kind of contraption in the back of his car, and he can look at it, whole business. So today I'd like to share with you a thought about this idea of the sun and the moon. And I'm going to dare to say something that I'm not sure if Dr. Kolshevsky will agree with me today, but why is it any different than the other day? That most of the divergent points of view today, the constant conflict between persons, arguing, boils down to all the arguments that we find today, we can say is a conflict between the sun and the moon. There are people who I would call solar personalities. There are people who I would call as lunar personalities. What's the difference between these two personalities? The first group, the solar group, believes in consistency. The second group, a lunar personality, they're the people who cherish creativity. There has always been people whose primary focus has always been on the importance of confirming to stick to the unchangeable truths of life, whether it's tradition, whether it's law, whether it's moral boundaries, whether it's justice, whether it's ritual, whether it's faith. These do not change with time, space, or circumstances. Just because Voltaire showed up and gave us enlightenment, and Nietzsche taught us about the will of power, and Tocqueville explained to us the democracy, or Freud discovered the subconscious, these individuals, the solar personalities, stick to the core values, which really makes us all human, and they will stick to not going any change. And they say, listen, what was good for my great-great-grandfather is good for me. And that's rooted in tradition. And they say, listen, let's learn from the sun. It's been doing the same thing for the past 57, 84 years, and it still shines strongly and effectively, and we're going to follow that example. But in contrast to that, you have personalities who focus on the constant changes in history, the fluctuating trends, the cultural developments, the novel inventions, Gewalt, the technologies, and the revolutions in that world, and the newly discovered wisdom. These are people who allow their ears to absorb the sounds of progression and the alterations in the human climate around us. They aspire to define a philosophy of life that will be relevant to the contemporary conversation of humanity in its journey towards progress. So what do they say? They say, hey, learn from the moon. They say every day it's different. It waxes, it wanes, it even disappears once in a while. It forever assumes all kinds of shapes and demeanors. So in some ways, it was this perspective which gave birth to aspects of contemporary Jewish world. Because you see, as the winds of modernity swept through Europe, enlightenment, emancipation, it kind of cast a glow on so many who were clinging to the lifestyle and traditions of their ancestors, who felt that this kind of old stuff was impeding their journey to the new world order. And in the process, they bid farewell to the old and embraced the new. Let's see who's... Good morning and welcome.
Yes, good morning, Rabbi. This is Michael Wolf from Floral Park.
Fantastic.
Yes, one of your most devoted congregants. And I must say, you put on a great show, just like you put on a great Sabbath service.
Thank you very much. I want everyone to know that Michael is one of our stalwart, really distinguished members, and I really appreciate you joining us today. And do you join everybody else during my sermon? Everybody enjoys a good sleep. I mean, everybody tells me, it's an amazing.
I hang on your every word.
Thank you so much. Well, we're having a good time, everybody. Michael, you are one of those people I was talking about that has a passion for life. You care for people. You dedicated your life to helping people who kind of fall between the cracks. and you've dedicated it with your full heart. So we appreciate it. I respect you for that. Many people don't have
Well.
that patience for helping people with special needs and all kinds of stuff like that. But you're up in the forefront. Thank you for that.
Well, you're very kind, and you have a lot of fans here in Floral Park.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Right.
Have a great day as we continue.
You too, Rabbi.
Thank you. So we're discussing how there's two kinds of personalities. We're discussing how the upcoming of the moon, of the sun, the eclipse of the sun, is an interaction between the sun and the moon. And I'm extending this, that there are different personalities, that the entire world now, in so many positive and maybe sad and not so positive ways, is an encounter between the sun and the moon, these two personalities. The sun represents this consistency, holding on to the traditions of the ancestors. And the moon represents the personality that's kind of says farewell to the old, and let's embrace the new. Let's say goodbye to the old, and let's embrace the yours. You see, each of these two perspectives, the solar and the lunar, make for good arguments, right? Each one puts the other one down. The solar personality explains how transient the lunar personality is. Today here, today tomorrow. You can't rely on them. In their passion to remain relevant today, they say, they forfeit the wisdom of yesteryear. Forget about it. I'm smarter than all the rabbis and all the sages. I forget about it. In their ambition to grow tall, they detach from the roots that have given them the original sap. As Charles Wadsworth once said, by the time a man realizes that maybe his father was right, he usually has a son who thinks he's wrong. At the other hand, you have the lunar personality people. They accuse the solar people. You're full of it. Monotony, dogma, repression. You're constantly living a life that stifles the new energy of today. In their hope to continue the chain of history, by adding their identical matching link, they fail to leave room, they say, for creativity and self-expression. I will tell you, and as I think all of you listening know more than me, in business you have the same problem. Often is a conflict between the lunar and the solar personalities that emerge in a company, in a business, or maybe even in an organization. Let me share with you one episode. The CEO, his name is David. He's an adventurous, creative, courageous. He is fearless of risks. He feels that during the 2024, during this year, the company has to embrace a new model to bring it over the top. Though it has not done these things in the past, he says, you want to go forward? We have to bring innovation into this company. But the senior vice president he lives by a different code. He's more conservative as he approaches it in the investments. He's more calculated with growth strategies. He wants to continue the models of yesteryear, which proved successful. So at a recent board meeting, they were trying to reconcile between these two personalities, and strong words were hurled. The VP accused the CEO, who is 30 years younger than him, you are with your ideas, you're volatile, you're impulsive, you're impetuous. This young know-it-all brat will take this successful company, earning its fixed annual revenue, and run it into the ground because of his irresponsible and youthful decisions. The CEO doesn't remain silent. Henry, he says, you're an old, I don't want to use the word on the radio. He shouts at him. He moves like the speed of a turtle. His consistency is regularity has led us to paralysis, stagnation, deadness. With him at the helm, we will soon become irrelevant. So you can agree, dear friends, that this exists in business, maybe even in the medical world as well, between different personalities, what you would say are lunar personalities and those who are more solar personalities. Often the same dichotomy flares up in marriage. The lady, she's spontaneous, fun-loving, bursting with ever-changing moods and emotions. Occasionally, her luminous personality shines like the moon, like a full moon. Equally frequent, however, there are periods of sadness and inner struggle. So she sometimes waxes and wanes. And sometimes she wants to disappear from the world for a couple of days, just like the moon. Him, on the other hand, oh yeah, he's Mr. Solid. He's consistent, as regular as the tomorrow's sunrise. When he has a flight, he packs 2 days before, shows up at the airport about 4.5 hours before the flight. He's been leaving the house at the same minute, 8:19 a.m. for the past 36 years to catch the 8:30 train. And at work, my friends, you can go on and on and on. And as Jean says, that's a good question. Is there a middle ground? My friends, that's what I'm here to share with you, my friend. But let me bring it up to par. Let me bring it up to par in a broader sense. And that is, we're talking about the sun and the moon. Now, which prevails? You know, each person tends to deal with this conflict differently. But the common denominator for most is that we tend to overemphasize one of the two approaches so that we can form some sense of identity. Sometimes, as a society, we give one approach exclusive power when the other has dominated our attention for a long time. It becomes like a kind of a pendulum swinging from one extreme to the other, embracing art and creativity until we're totally lost all sense of moral truth, and then giving total control to discipline and dogma until there is no distinguishable personality left in us. I'm here to share with you today that in Judaism, in its profound understanding of human nature and the process of history, it actually challenges us to embark on the road less traveled. Let me explain. There are two types of calendars used by most of the civilization today: the Western calendar and the Muslim calendar. The Western calendar follows the solar cycle, the sun, while the Muslim calendar follows the lunar cycle, the moon. The primary features of both calendars are the month and the year, yet their duration can be calculated through either the sun or the moon. So, as I'm sure we all know, that the sun completes its orbit around the earth, or, as some scientists like to put it this day, the earth completes its orbit around the sun every 365 days. That makes for a year. If you divide these 365 days into 12 sections, you get approximately 30 days in each section. This makes up the months. This is how the Western calendar works. The months are not defined by the completion of any particular orbit. They are a human creation, a product of the mind dividing the sun's orbit into 12 sections. The moon, on the other hand, completes its orbit around the earth, or the earth completes its orbit around the moon, every 29.5 days, 12 times as fast as the sun. That makes for a month. Now, when you multiply the lunar months, 29 or 30 days, 12 times, you have a year. Such a year, comprised of 12 lunar months, adds up to 354 days. That makes it 11 days shorter than the solar year of 365 days. When a new lunar year begins, the beginning of the 13th month, the solar year has not yet finished its previous year and orbit. This is how the Muslim calendar works. As with the months in the Western calendar, the years in the Muslim calendar are not defined by an objective astronomical reality, but are a creation of a human mind multiplying the moon's orbit 12 times. That is why Ramadan, the 9th month of the Islamic calendar, which is the month of fasting and all and the customs in that community, can fall out either in the winter or the summer or any other season. Sometimes Ramadan is in the hot August. Sometimes it's in cold February. Why? Because the Muslim calendar, unlike the Western calendar, has nothing to do with the sun and its seasons. It completely revolves around the moon. So what's the problem? As long as you don't mix the two calendars, you're fine. But this is where we in a sense, have stepped in and generated some confusion. Why? Because the Jewish calendar is unique in that it integrates these two very different cycles of time, the solar and the lunar, into one harmonious system. The very first commandment given to the Jewish people, even before they left Egypt, specified the formula by which to set the cycles of Jewish time, and it gave birth to the most complex calendar ever employed. Why is that? Because the Torah specifies that the Jewish months need to be established by the lunar, by the moon, not the solar. So we love the moon. But here's the dilemma. The Torah also instructs the Jewish people to celebrate their holidays observed on certain days of the lunar month, specifically in the solar seasons. So, for example, the holiday of Passover, which begins on the 15th day of the lunar month of Nisan, must always be the time of spring as defined by the solar cycle. Now, if you are all getting a headache from what I'm saying, you deserve it, because I got a headache too. Now, if the lunar and the solar year had enjoined an identical number of days, they both had the same days, the system would work perfectly. The lunar and the solar months would travel together side by side. But here's the problem. Since the lunar year is only 354 days and the solar year is 365 days, each passing year creates a discrepancy of 11 days between the two cycles. So in the course of 10 years, the lunar year falls behind the solar year some 110 days. The result of this would be that Passover, celebrated in the lunar month of Nisan, would eventually be in the winter or the fall. So what's the solution? To confront this problem, the Jewish calendar introduced the leap year. A leap year. Every few years, a 13th month consisting of exactly 30 days is added to the lunar year. This way, the lunar year catches up with the solar year. This is done approximately every 3 years when the discrepancy between the lunar and solar year reaches 33 days. The added month synchronizes them, more or less, and we could go into more detail of how it works out. In a 19-year cycle, 7 of them are leap years. Okay, we'll another time we'll go into that. But let's stick to our point about the lunar personalities and the solar personalities. So in summation, the Jewish people calculate their time according to both the moon and the sun. Our months are the moons, and our years are the suns. So to ensure that our lunar months keep pace with the solar year, we are constantly attempting to have the moon overcome its 11-day void and catch up to the sun's year. I got a headache. But why do we need for such headaches? If the Torah wants us to synchronize our months and years with the solar seasons, let us establish a solar calendar to begin with. Why need to follow a lunar system and then try to make up for its flaws and its shortcomings and its mishaps? The answer to this enigma is that in Judaism, we measure, listen carefully, my friends, we measure and calculate our days the same way in which we measure and calculate our inner lives. We define time in the same way that we define our mission in life. And our mission in life is not to become either lunar or solar, but to learn to integrate these two forces. Sure, the synthesis of these celestial beings which possess different patterns is never easy, because it always requires tuning, fine-tuning, checks and balances, adjustments, vigilance, humility, and the readiness to challenge ourselves. But any other way would be neglecting a vital component of our nature and our objective in life. For in our Jewish imagination, truth can never be captured via the moon or the sun on their own. Both creativity and tradition are critical components of life. And it begins with the source of all, because God is both never changing and yet forever creating. Stability and innovation are both expressions of God's undefined reality. Uniformity, everything having a common and unifying thread, and multiplicity, everything being distinct and unique, both come from God. And the same is true concerning tradition versus innovation. God gave man innovative abilities, which we ought to utilize to its fullest. And yet, for our creativity to be productive and life-affirming, God gave us a structure in which to operate. If I forfeit that structure in the name of liberty and self-expression, this would be like akin to water escaping the boundaries of the pot in order to come into direct contact with the fire beneath the pot. Can you imagine? You're boiling water, and you decide to take the water out of the pot that you're boiling up, and you're going to take it and put it directly on the fire. What's going to happen? Hello? The results? No fire left. It works, in so many ways. Let's take the marital structure. Some may argue for a complete lunar passion and romance without solar stable commitment to one person. It may sound exciting to live such a life. It may sound exciting, but the results we all know is well known. It undermines rather than enhances the love and trust between a husband and wife, and the person often ends up with garnished with nothing. Let me share with you a story that I shared in our synagogue this Shabbos to bring home, so to speak, this important lesson of integrating both lunar and solar powers, to be stable like the sun and to have creativity like the moon, as reflected in the Jewish calendar, which is an integration, synthesis of both the sun and the moon. And I would dare to say, that every argument today, every breakdown in morality that we find sadly around us these days, and many aspects of war and all the difference in politics boils down to these two ideas: the clash between the sun and the moon. After the program, sit back, my friends. I encourage you, sit back and think about this. So here's the story. For as long as anyone could remember, there was a clock mounted high up on the tallest building in the town, like Big Ben in London. As people would go about their business throughout the day, they would periodically glance upwards and then automatically check their own watches. And sometimes there would be an inconsistency. And then, what would they do? If the clock said 12:05 and their watch said 12, they would reset their watch to the correct time from the big clock up on the building. But times changed. A murmur of discontent was heard in an element, in the population. What was the problem? Hey, why can't the clock be a little lower at eye level, more accessible? The clock is too high. It's a pain in the neck, quite literally, to always have to look up at it. Why can't the clock be a little lower down at eye level, more accessible? What if the clock is wrong? It's practically impossible to change it. It's too high. Now, if it were installed on a lower building, it would be so much easier to fix when it would break. Okay? The locals were vocal, and the vocals were local, and a meeting was held, and a decision was made. The clock was lowered. Then a funny thing started happening. When people noticed a discrepancy between the town clock and their watch, more often than not, they would now adjust the time. Where? On the town clock. After all, I know that I have the right time. Then someone else would come by and readjust the clock. Within a short period of time, The clock had been fiddled with so often that when the clock said 12, he didn't know if it was 12 or 1 or maybe 4. So what happened? The consensus was that it was no longer relevant, and the clock was consigned to the trash heap. Friends, this is a very important. And rather than having higher ideals, a consistency in our life, we've taken the consistencies, the foundations, and thrown it into the garbage. There are no more moral standards. There are no more boundaries. There's all kinds of things going on everywhere. We've consigned the clock, the higher aspects of our life, into the garbage. Friends, we love the moon. We must be fresh. We must be creative. We must be passionate and explore and actualize all of our individual resources. But here, this year in the Jewish calendar is a leap year. We're now in the conclusion of the 13th month, the second Adar. The leap year teaches us that our inner moon, our inner lunacy, must, once every few years, be synchronized with our inner sun. We need a clock on top of a tower to tell us the right time, to define what is right and what is wrong. If not, if we take down the clock and allow every individual to adjust it according to his or her whim, we are left with a generation without any focus, any direction, and any vision. So, be a moon, by all means. But do not be afraid to take on a commitment, to become consistently involved, whether it's in the cause or it's the foundation of how our parents and grandparents and great-grandparents lived. There are so many examples that we can all give. But the truth is, it is only in the struggle to synthesize the sun and the moon that the full capacity and majesty, of the human being can really be expressed. This is the thought. And think about it. Am I a lunar Jew, a lunar personality, or am I a solar personality? It applies to all of us. It applies to every argument. In the boardroom of the businesses, in the academies, maybe even in the medical world, there's always those who consist strong to the past, and then there's those who want to bring in innovation, and it has to be integrated. If everybody believes only in their way, either to the right or to the left, we have nothing. This is what we're learning this year, and certainly as the eclipse comes closer and everybody runs north to more western New York or upstate New York or parts of the United States, think about this. In a sense, the eclipse of the moon and the sun, how they both now are so in close proximity in terms of the light. What always fascinated me is that even as the moon covers up the sun, the moon will always only get its light from the sun. And the sun's light is always there, even though it's being concealed. Think of that as a metaphor as well, that behind all the problems that we have, all the darknesses and the concealment and the stupidity that's going on, know that the sun, as a metaphor for consistency, as we said earlier on, there's the consistency of God is always burning brightly for all of us to bring us hope, and we look forward to the day there'll be no more, in a sense, no more eclipsing of anything, either the sun or the moon, but a brightness of holiness, of value, of faith, of all the good things that we have in life. So, the holy rabbi enters the empty synagogue one day. He prostrates himself before the ark, and he says, "O Lord, what am I? I'm but dust, and I'm nothing." The cantor happened to be walking down the corridor, and he heard the rabbi's confession. So he went up to the ark, and he proclaimed, "God Almighty, what am I? I'm but an empty shell. I'm absolutely nothing." Then the shamus, the caretaker, overheard the cantor, and he too joins them and the ark, and he announced, "Dear God, who am I? And what am I? I am of no substance at all. I'm zero. I'm nothing." Whereupon the cantor whispers to the rabbi, "Have a look and see Who else thinks himself that he's a nothing? As Golda Meir once told someone, "Don't be so humble. You're not that great." Just last week, I was speaking about importance of the humility, its value in Jewish thought. Believe it or not, too much humility, like too much of anything, can be detrimental as well. We use Moses to illustrate that the truly great are truly humble. For there was a time when even Moses was too humble to a fault. Moses was tending to Jethro's sheep when he noticed the burning bush, his very first divine revelation. There, the simple shepherd was given the mandate to become a faithful shepherd, a leader of the Jewish people, and redeem them from the Egyptian bondage. God tells Moses to go back to Egypt and tell the old Pharaoh to free the Israelites. What was Moses' response? He gave the Almighty a long list of arguments. Who am I, little old me, go to the court, to the mighty king, And when the Almighty reassured him that he would be with him, supporting him all the way, Moses still hesitated. What shall I say to them? Who sent me? And even when God gave him the answer, he persisted. What if they don't believe in me? So God showed Moses miracles and wondrous symbols to prove that his mission was heavenly. Was right. But he still resisted. This time arguing he was speech impediment. Then to top it all off, after God promised him to teach him what to say, Moses still asked God to send someone else, anyone but himself. Eventually, Almighty appeared to lose patience with his chosen messenger and coined the now famous expression, "Just do it." So Moses went to Egypt, and of course, the rest is history. But did you know that by Moses initially declining to go on that fateful mission, his brother Aaron became God's spokesperson, and later on the first high priest, privilege which originally was meant for Moses. That's right. Sometimes too much humility can be counterproductive. So where do we use humility and where do we not? As the great rabbis explain, it once famously explained, every person must have two pockets, and inside each pocket must be a little piece of paper. The paper inside the right pocket should say, Bishvili nivra la'olam, the whole world was created for me. And the paper inside the left pocket should say, Vanochi ofa ve'efer, I am but dust and ashes. We need to be able to find the appropriate attitude for every occasion and situation. If we are feeling down and depressed, we need to be reminded that the whole world was created for me. God put us here. He must think we have a contribution to make. Otherwise, what are we doing here? What are we hanging out here for? That's the idea that should get us moving. But if we get carried away with our own importance, we also need to remember the words of our great father, Abraham, who said, I am but dust and ashes. So in the grandest scheme of things, we really are nothing. And yes, there's a fine tension playing out here, like we're discussing between the sun and the moon. There are two distinctly different approaches to life, but we need both. And be aware of these two opposite perspectives that gives us a healthy balance. Gewalt, I got to get out of here. This is the way to go. Have a wonderful week. Have a safe week. Enjoy. And looking forward. Stay well, everybody.